everyone, I'm Catherine, aka the High Heeled Gamer, and this is The Breakdown. So I'm a little spruced up, got my hair done, still got my nails did, and that's because we have a special guest today, and I'm trying to impress. We have award-winning fantasy author Steve Aryan. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yes, that's right. Well done.
Hi, and welcome to The Breakdown. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for being with us. I'm super excited. I was a little nervous too because I was like, "Oh my God, he's like super cool and everything," and I'm just like the nerd.
No, we're all nerds. We're all geeks.
Yeah, but you're like super cool because you're award winning. I'm trying to get to your level in life. Now, so we have a little bit of a time difference, and that's okay. But I really do appreciate you being on with us, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So you have a Kickstarter.
Yes.
And it is for the first issue of FLUX.
Mm-hmm.
And I backed it because I was privileged enough to see the first issue, and I loved it. I immediately, from the beginning, it was like, oh, okay, I see where you're going. And time travel is a big thing for me. Like, I'm a huge Back to the Future fan.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Good. So I was hooked, and then it's kind of action from the beginning.
Yeah.
I really, really did like that. But let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
So you're a fantasy author.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've done 2 sets of trilogies.
Yes. Yeah. 6 books.
I'm trying to make sure I don't mess anything up because I'm a little nervous and I'm trying to remember everything about you. Can you tell us a little bit about those 2 trilogies?
Yes. So I was originally got an agent in 2013. So for years I've been trying to get published, just writing a book, sending it out, getting rejected, doing it again, and just keep sending books out over and over. And this is kind of on the verge of the internet when you have to do everything on paper. So it wasn't by email or anything. It was just doing your best and trying and seeing what happens. And then 2011 or so, I finished another book, started editing it, polished it, sent it out in 2013. And an agent responded and said, I like this, can we talk? So I went down to London, I met with her, and we talked about the book. And she represented my work. So then we worked on the book for about a year, editing it. And then she said, okay, now it's ready. And we sent it out to the publishers, and it went out to a couple of publishers. They had like a preview, and one made an offer on the first trilogy. So they had to get busy writing books 2 and 3. It's like, okay, you've done 1, but who cares? We got to edit that. Now write books 2 and 3. Okay, so yeah, I then had to write books 2 and 3. They gave me a longer lead time up front, so that this is Orbit Books. What they tend to do with the debut authors is the books come out every 6 calendar months. So over the course of a year, you get all 3 books out. So everyone's going, wow, you write them so fast. I'm like, no, it still takes me between 9 and 12 months to write a book. It's just, so I think I had like September, April, and then September the following year. Okay. And then once that first trilogy was done, they picked me up for a second trilogy, and then I've been releasing those books 1 every year. That brings us up to September just gone, that wrapped up my second trilogy. So now I need to lie down and some sleep, but it's all good. It's all good.
When did your love for the fantasy genre start?
Oh, wait, ever since I've been a little kid.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, my mum took me to the theatre to see a live version of The Hobbit, which was kind of strange because how they did it was really clever, with like the dragon on stage coming in and moving back and the props, and there's a lot of walking in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So how they did it on the stage, I can't really remember, but it cemented my love of fantasy, and that was it for me. And then I grew up reading everything from like Dragonlance to Ursula Le Guin. Just I've never stopped reading fantasy.
Okay.
And at some point, I thought I should have a go at this. I could try. And so I started writing, and I'm still doing it. This is it.
Yeah. Are those some of your biggest influences?
Probably the biggest one is a British fantasy author called David Gemmell. He passed away a few years ago, but so you may have heard people talk about grimdark fantasy. This is a kind of a new wave of things where characters are quite grey and the worlds are a bit more murky. And people say authors like Joe Abercrombie and some of the others are quite grimdark, but about 10, 15 years before that, David Gemmell was essentially doing the same thing. He was writing characters that were always trying to do the best thing that they could in extreme circumstances, but all of them were grey up to a certain degree. And so he was definitely the biggest influence on my work, and people have said my work reminds me of him, and that's the biggest compliment I can say.
That's super cool. Is there any influences now that you're like, oh, I like this new age type of thing that you're seeing out there that you're like, ooh, that's pretty cool?
There's a lot more crossing of genres these days. Like it used to be kind of just straight fantasy, but some authors are doing really interesting things. They're mixing in a bit of science fiction in some of their books, or they have unusual settings that just have elements of fantasy. So there's a great author that I like called John Horner Jacobs, American author, and he has really cool books. Like he's done one called The Incorruptibles, where it begins off and you think it's a Western, but then there are kind of demons crawling around the edges, and then there are things that might be elves, but they're not quite, and there's some magic, and it's all kind of mixed together, and it's kind of a non-traditional sort of fantasy, but it's so immersive and so amazing. I just love it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check him out. I haven't heard of him. He sounds
John Horner Jacobs. So he does horror. He recently just released a kind of so he's just done a kind of Lovecraftian book with like 2 novellas that come out together in one. I think it's called A Lush and Seething Hell or something. You'll be able to find it. But yeah, so he does all sorts of cool stuff. So this is it. It's like I discovered him. I thought, oh yeah, I could do something different. I don't have to do just straight fantasy or. Every book I read kind of opens doors, and I think maybe I could do some of that, or maybe bring some science fiction in. It just everything's changing so much these days.
Yeah, it is, and I agree with you. Like it used to be just okay. This is what fantasy is. This is what horror is. This is what romance is, and it all intertwines nowadays. That it's just kind of you realize, oh my God, there's endless possibilities here crossing back and forth. Now I see a couple of Lego pieces behind you. Are they yours?
Oh yeah. I find it really zen when I'm building something. If I'm really stressed out or something, I get like really big model. Other side, like that one is from, you may recognize it from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
So I just kind of strip the whole thing down, and I just find building it just kind of calms me down. So yeah, and there's Iron Man watching me over there, and the tumbler and all sorts of stuff. So
the more you talk, the more I realize that I'm falling in love with you, because I have that Lego Hulkbuster.
Yes, that's it.
And it's the same thing with me. I collect Legos too. Like I have the Harry Potter sets, I have the Iron Man stuff, and it is kind of zen. You and I. This is a match. I love it so much. Okay, I gotta focus. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm losing my focus. So for those that haven't seen the Kickstarter, and shame on them for that, by the time this airs and everybody sees it, there'll be about 2 weeks left in the Kickstarter.
Yes. Tell
us about FLUX. I'm so excited.
Okay. So as you said, you're a fan of time travel films, and so am I. So in the campaign, we quote the different levels, and all of them have got a name after a time travel film. So whether it's Looper or Back to the Future or Time Cop or something like that. So I've watched science fiction and fantasy films and TV shows as long as I've been reading the books.
Okay.
And I love all of these time travel films. But as I think I did an interview recently, and someone was saying, well, what's different between what you're doing in FLUX and all of these films? And the thing is, in those films, they tend to have a problem, and then they need to try and fix it with time travel. In the world of FLUX, we've said we've done something a bit different, where time travel is here to stay and it's not going away. It's part of the fabric of society. So we've said in our story in the world, in 1973, the US government invented time travel, but shortly after, the technology was leaked. So then people started using it to travel into the past to improve their lives in the present. So they go back and, it's not a case of go back and kill Hitler. It's go back and, I don't know, give your dad, like in Back to the Future almost, give him the book that has all the best bets. And so then when you come back to the present, you're rich. Brilliant. So basically people started doing all of this, and the government was like, okay, we need to do something about this. So they set up this new branch of government called Purity Control. And they poured loads of money, millions of dollars in, at that time in the 70s, into a way to combat this. And they developed this wearable tech called time bands. It looks kind of like a Fitbit you'd see today, but these started in the 70s. And what it does is, the moment somebody's born, you put one on their wrist, and then when you die, you take it off. So everybody has to wear one. It's almost like when you're at school and you have kids get talked about, look both ways when you cross the road and stranger danger and things. So for 40 years in our story, this guy's been going around all the schools saying, you must wear your time band, and this is why it's important. And so the world is just a very small change, but it's changed everything. And the story is set in present day. So it's, 21st century. But because of all of these problems, and because of time travel and purity control and all of this, technology in the present day has become a bit stunted. So there's no internet, there's no social media. Everybody, when you see them in the book talking on phones, they've got the big kind of sat phones with the massive aerials that used to have, and someone's on a car talking at one point, they've got a giant phone like this going, yes, what? And so like I'm old enough to remember the computers with the green screens and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay. I was alive before the internet, and that old. So it's all kind of, it's got a kind of like an 80s feel to it. So, but it's 2000 and 1920.
So I'm not gonna lie, it did throw me off a little bit, because it does have that nostalgia feel to it. So I wasn't 100% sure what time frame, but then again, I'm also kind of slow in life. I wasn't kind of sure what time frame it was, and then I was like, oh, wait a second, it's present day, but
yes,
why does it have that feel? So that makes total sense. Now I do have a question about the time band, and I'm hoping it's not a spoiler, but if it is, Jack, our producer, can edit it out. But I need to know. Like, I need to know. So, does the time band mess with your mind? And I'm not trying to reveal anything. I just need to know. Does it mess? Is it like when you put it on? Does it integrate into your system?
So what it means is it's kind of like its protection system. So if somebody did go back in time and start changing your timeline, the time band protects you from it. So it wouldn't any changes that someone say. So time travel's still out there. People can still go back and change things. It doesn't make any difference. 99% of the world is now wearing a time band. It has no effect. But purity control still exists to police people, because some people are still going to try and do it. They might go back and try and improve their own lives by using time travel. So it's still a danger in society. But in the book, it's not a spoiler, because this is in the first couple of pages, where things have moved on now, and now they're saying, okay, when you were born, you all got a standard. They're all kind of boring. If you notice, they're all these standard plain grey government information printed on, and it's really dull. And now purity control is saying, right, we're launching this new wave of the next generation, where you'll be able to integrate more information. You'll be able to do like heart rate monitor, and a bit more like a Fitbit kind of thing. And this is this new thing they're launching called Squid. You can have different colors, maybe, whatever you kind of want. So it's moving on. Of course, they're gonna charge you for it as well now. Whereas before, it's all kind of standard government issue. It's free, but it's how they're trying to monetize it after 40 years of making people wear these things, and everyone gets one in the world. It's like, okay, so now what? How do we make some money back from all of that investment?
Okay, now that makes because I was like, I'm a little confused. And for those that back this and read, you'll figure out why I'm asking.
Yes.
Spoilers.
I'm kind of dodging around stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I just need to know.
I need to know.
But I can't tell you what's happening. It's so good. I definitely don't want to spoil this for anybody at all. Like, it, like I said, from the word go, I was invested, and it's such a great feel to this that it kind of felt like I was there, almost like a fly on the wall, but there. Is that kind of why you guys chose the artist that you chose? A Mason, I'm gonna butcher his Barzah.
Yeah, Mason Barza. So
Okay.
he's got a really interesting style. It looks like modern day, but it also looks a little bit kind of old fashioned.
Yes.
And the colors you'll notice on some of the pages, or they're not pastel, but they've got a kind of slightly unusual tint to them.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's that thing of where it looks a little bit retro, which is why when you're reading it, you go, but it's present day, but the colors and the art makes it look a little bit kind of
Yes, and that's what
uncomfortable.
yeah, and that's what was throwing me off, because it so there are not a lot of panels that are bright and in your face, but every panel is vibrant in its own, and I hate to use the word dark, but
yeah, it's kind of muted, sort of.
Yes, thank you, muted, because I'm not an artist and I don't know these terms. It has a muted feel to it, and I liked that there was kind of like a shadow almost, and it makes your eyes focus on the characters, and I think that's why I felt like I was there but a fly on the wall. Like, it was like I'm close but not quite, and I really did like that. Did you guys give him like creative freedom, like this is what the story is, do you, or did you have some already envisioned and you were like, this is what I want to see?
No, we so my co-writer Pete Rogers had he found Mason on a forum for artists, and we started talking to him. We'd seen some of his other artwork, and then we kind of said, this is the story, this is what we're kind of doing, this is the feel we're going to do. We gave him the first, I don't know, 5 or 6 pages and said, when we've spoken about the types of panels, we don't do camera directions unless it's really, really specific and there's a reason in the story. So we just sort of say, panel 1 is this, panel 2 is this, whereas other people might say, panel 1, you're looking down at something and you can see it. We wouldn't do that unless it was really important at a critical detail. But even then, we might say to him, this is the thing that we need to see. If you can find a better way of showing it, go ahead. Because first, I'm a writer, so it's words for me first. I'm not visually focused, whereas he is obviously everything, it's art focused for him. So we'd give him free reign, and it has to be a partnership. Me, Pete, Mason, Sean, who does the lettering, we're all a team. And that's a bit weird for me as well, because it's a case of when I'm writing novels, it's me by myself. Whereas now that I'm doing the comic, I co-wrote it with Pete, and then I've got an art team. So I have to kind of take a step back and not hold on so tightly, and just sort of let go a bit and say, okay, go and do your thing. He'd come back with pages, and they'd be amazing. They'd be not what I'd expected, but it was so much better than I can imagine, because I'm just not an artist. And he'd go, I was thinking about this. And we look at it and be like, brilliant. I never would have thought that in a million years. Love it.
So there is a panel, and I don't think it's a spoiler, and there's a character talking. I'm not going to say too, like, there's a character talking, and the angle is from like kind of diagonal to the character. And I'm like, dude, I've never seen a character sitting down talking this way and the angles this way. Like, I was like, that's like, it took me aback. It actually made me stop and appreciate that, and I was like, I want to know, did he have creative freedom? Or
absolutely.
And I think it all flowed very well. It was very well done all together. Now, I feel like this might be a little bit of a different type of fantasy from the type that you're used to writing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess you'd say it's science fiction because it's time travel, I guess. There's no spaceships or laser guns, but it's science fiction. Like if you look at Back to the Future or a Time Cop or something like that, you class them as science fiction. So we'd say it's a science fiction thriller because there's all this big setup, but then that's not the story. That's just the world it's set in. And the first issue is all about this mystery of something happens at the very beginning. I won't say what it is, but something happens, and it's a case of, well, why did this happen? What caused it? What's going on? And the story follows homicide detective in Chicago called Sarah Ramirez, And she basically, in the first few pages, gets this unusual case, and the 4 issues is her following the case to find out, well, what's going on, what does it mean, why did this happen, and her gradually piecing together this mystery.
Now, Sarah Ramirez is kind of the young buck, eyes wide open detective, and she's got like 1 foot coming in the door, while her partner Mike McKinney has 1 foot out the door, and he's like, "I'm ready to retire." Can I ask, are we going to see a little more glimpse into what they have going on throughout the story?
Yes, yeah. So as the story goes, you'll see a bit more of Sarah's life. As you said, it's not a spoiler. It's just a detail in the first issue about the characters. Where Mike's like, "I'm going to get a dog and I'm going to retire," and she's like, "I'm just getting started." So you've got this older cop, and she's been on the job a while, and
okay.
we get to see a bit more about her life and her family, and we get to find out about Mike's background and his living situation as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of unraveling the mystery of what's going on, but equally we want to make these characters feel as fleshed out and as real as possible, and really lived in. Plus, the kind of third character in the book really is Arthur Buchanan, and he's the spokesman for Purity Control, who goes around, who's been going to schools and colleges and campuses for 40 years, telling people why you have to wear a time band, why it's important, and why you must never take it off. And have you noticed how he looks a little bit like somebody, a little bit like the Colonel?
Yeah. And I was like, is he like, wait a second? And I thought it was just me, and like I couldn't be like, do you think? And then I was like, man, but I didn't want to say anything because I'm usually wrong. So I didn't want to say anything, and I didn't want to be like, hey, by the way, looks like Colonel.
So he's an older guy. He's a figure of trust. He's someone that people have seen for years, and they know him, and they don't really have a second glance now. And equally, you could draw a sketch of the Colonel. Everybody knows who he is. He's kind of just part of the landscape, and this is what Buchanan has become, where people are they know him, and we know we have to wear a time band, whatever, that's not important. They get on with their lives. But he's reaching the end of his life in terms of the job. I've kind of done my job. Everyone knows you have to wear a time band. Now what do I do next? So it's a case of where does he go next in his story as well. So those are kind of the 3 main characters.
I'm curious about that too, because he's doing a tour, Can I say what kind of tour it is?
It's like a farewell kind of speaking tour. Yes,
it's a retirement tour, but I feel like there's more to it than just a retirement tour. Like I'm going off of I feel like there's more to it, and I'm hoping there is more to his story, but if there's not, like I guess it kind of makes sense. I know. I want to get so much out of you, and this is token, I don't want to spoil anything. But my guess is that there's more to it. But he was the founder of the company, correct?
Yeah, he's
the founder of the time band.
No, he's basically the public face of the company. So the government, US government, invented it, and then when they first created it, it was a case of people saying, well, why do we need them? And he's like, okay, so he's been going out and talking to schools and workplaces and just kind of banging the drum for 40 years. So it's hard to talk about without spoiling it. But this is the first issue. We should say this is the first issue it's a 4-issue miniseries.
Oh, it's 4. I thought it was just 3. Oh my God.
No. Okay, so issue 2, the artwork is done.
I know.
When we launched this Kickstarter, we want to make it clear to people. But when some people go on Kickstarter, they say, "Yeah, we've done this and we haven't done anything else. We'll get to it." And I've backed some campaigns before and they've never been fulfilled. So we wanted to get to a place where we knew that we can fulfill this. Whatever happens, we're going to do it. Issue 1 is completely done. It's ready. It just needs to be printed and it'll go out the door.
Okay.
Issue 2, the artwork is completely finished. We just need to get it colored and lettered, and we're looking to launch that early 2020. The artist is wrapping up the art on issue 3, so we'll also do that next year as well. And then he's got to get work on issue 4. We don't know we'll do issue 4 yet, but it's completely written. And issues 1, 2, and 3 are close to being done. So it's a case of once issue 1's done, we'll have a little rest. Next year, we'll look at it again, and we'll probably launch it. Provisionally, I'm saying March, but it might be earlier, it might be later. But we're not going to be. It's not going to be 6 months and then another 6 months and another 6 months. We want to finish and tell this story and get people excited about it.
Yeah, well, you've got me excited, and I hate to say it, but when it comes to comic books, I'm not easily impressed because by now it's gotten to the point where it's already been done type of stuff, and
Yeah.
we've got all these relaunches coming out, and although the story is good, it's not like, oh my God, but when I'm not saying it because you're here, like it's a legit thing, but when I was done, I was like, I need 2 and 3. Like, where are these books? Like, what's happening right now? And like I said, I backed it up. I backed up because I want the preview to 2, because I'm like that excited to know. And I've got like my own ideas as to what may or may not happen. There's a cliffhanger, and it just, I was hooked. I was like, I need more. Like, it was just that good, and it really took. But then again, I like time travel stories.
Yeah.
And because this is done in such a different way, where it's not a limited space and people are going back for different reasons, it definitely was a different take on that. Now, is there anything else you're working on other than Flux that you can tell us about? Exclusives here on the breakdown?
Me and Pete do have a couple of other projects that we're working on. One of the things we're looking to do for the stretch goal, which I can give you an exclusive here. It's going to go up. Actually, it may be up by the time this comes out. It may already up. But our stretch goal is we're going to do like a pilot season preview of some of the other projects we've got in the works. So we're going to sort of do the first 4 or 5 pages of a few projects, and if we hit our stretch goal, we'll give that to all the backers, so you can have a taste of some of the other things that we're working on. And it's a case of, if we get a huge lot of interest in one particular one of those, we might try and push that and fast track that one, and just see. We want to kind of gauge the response from people as well on the other projects that we're working on, and see what people say.
Okay, that's super cool. I'm excited because I'm on that list.
That's it. You'll get it now.
I'm like so excited about that. So, real quick, where can everybody find your stuff first?
Okay, so I've got a website. It's steven-aryan.com. I'm on Twitter at Steve Aryan. Pete Rogers, my co-writer, he's the same, at Pete Rogers. I think his is, I can't remember his website, but we can put the links in.
We'll get it in. And
of course, we're on Kickstarter. Just look for Flux issue 1, and that's it. It's there. It's there. It's ready to go. So the campaign runs until the end of November. We're going to send the digital copies out of issue 1 in December because they're ready, and we'll just get the books printed in December and either send them out December or January. But we're kind of worried that if we're sending stuff out in December, it could get caught in the Christmas post and everyone's buying gifts. So I don't know. We're kind of going to gauge it. We'd rather you get it than go, you posted it, I didn't get it.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And it's pretty cool that you think about things like that. Other people are like, we got the money, you get it when you get it. Like, well, that's really cool that you do that.
We both backed campaigns and we both love comics. And it's a case of, if we really want to get the thing. So we want to make sure. So issue 1's ready to go. Just push the button. 2, we're going to start moving on it as soon as this wraps. So you'll get a preview.
Can you tell how hard I'm thinking? Like, my cheeks are turning red because I'm like so excited about this. Like, it's like I said, and not that I'm bougie or uppity or anything like that. It's just when you read comics for forever, things kind of start repeating itself. So I end up getting like legit excited when it's something new and I get invested in these characters. Like, I don't know, Sarah, but I wanna. Like, it's those kinds of things, So I appreciate the work that you and Peter and May Sam have done. It's super cool. Everybody, go check out Flux on Kickstarter. Back it up. You guys will thank me, and then you guys will go and thank Stephen, Peter, and Mason because it is super cool. Well, I want to give a big thank you to Stephen for taking the time and coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Like so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and as always, you guys can catch me every Wednesday, hopefully around 6-ish, on the breakdown. And we will see you next week.